All right, everyone watching this knows who Anthony Fantano is, right? Internet's busiest music nerd, best teeth in the game, something something melon. Got that settled? He rates albums on a scale of 1 to 10, but every now and then he comes across an album that is like just so bad, I guess, that he has to call it not good. He describes these albums as basically like non-starters, like albums that are just so voided of musicality that it is just not worthy of deep listening or deep discussion. And so I was curious about like how bad are these albums actually. So I took it upon myself. I listened to 10 of these albums that he called not good, and I am going to review these albums for you guys right now, unbiasedly, because I haven't watched any of his reviews of these albums. And I'm going to be telling you if these albums are not good or not bad. I'm going to be saying a lot of negative stuff in this video. So let's start off with something that's a little bit more positive. Gonna be a surprise. Little Peep, Come Over When You're Sober, part 1. Yeah, interestingly enough, I actually didn't mind this album. It's very short, very easy to get through. It's like kind of this like cloud rap album, and there's like some alternative rock influences in there. There's only like 2 main issues I had with this album. One issue is like sometimes the vocals got really annoying because like he does this like really aggressive kind of loud sing rapping thing, which I wasn't too big of a fan of. And then the second problem was some of the lyrics were just really bad. Life is fucked up, so that's why we get fucked up. This guy was not cooking when he said that line. It was a very bearable album. It's a very listenable album. Also, I think there's a lot of people out there in the world that would enjoy this album. I just don't think that this album was made for Anthony Fantano. And that's gonna be a trend that you're gonna see throughout this entire video. And I do also want to say though, Save That Shit is a banger of a song. I will be saving that shit. You know what I'm saying? What's this called? Come Over When You're Sober? Not bad. Not bad. Now let's tear some people apart, okay? The rest of the albums, man, there's something. Honestly, Nevermind by Drake. Honestly, Drake should never have made this album. There are some die-hard Drake fans, bro. One of my managers at work enjoys Drake, and I talked to him. I was like, what about Honestly Nevermind? And then my manager goes, he was trying something new, man. You just don't get it. You know, let him cook. Someone's got to stop Drake from cooking because he's burning everything he fucking touches. My thing is with this album is that I feel like the instrumentals are pretty all right, you know? I feel like if this album was just kind of like a instrumental micro house album, it would have been fine. It wouldn't have been great, but it would have been fine. It would have been bearable. The problem is Drake is so fucking horny and just has to tell everyone about it, and it just ruins the experience. I don't need to know what you're gripping on, okay? No one needs to know what you're gripping on. Also, Drake's vocals are awful. I cannot stand a Drake vocal. This album started a trend, by the way, of me only listening to these albums once. I wrote a lot of notes every time I listened to an album, but I've only listened to these albums once. And if you're gonna get mad at me for that, I want you to try to sit through, what is it, like an hour and 15 minutes of Honestly Nevermind by Drake, and then tell me you want to listen to that thing again. Why did I write that? I don't know what this note refers to, but I wrote is Drake always this much of a bitch? What does that refer to? Yeah, this album's not good. Let's talk about, oh man, we're gonna talk about Muse, Will of the People. Back in the day, I was a big Muse fan, okay? Muse helped me get into music. I've said before that like their first like 3-4 albums are really good. The fact that I was such a big Muse fan and this album came out and I just didn't even really know about it just kind of says a lot. When Simulation Theory came out, I knew it came out. I didn't listen to it, but I knew it came out. This album just appeared, I guess. Like what? How did this come about? Muse has turned into this thing where it's just like, it's an awful parody of themselves. Like, it's just so sad to see because like these guys were the shit back in the day. There's a lot of weird songs on this thing. There's a lot of songs that are like Queen knockoffs. That last track also, by the way, like, what's it called? We Are Fucking Fucked. Bro, what? Who thought that was a good idea? I don't know, man. I don't know how this even happened. Yeah, Muse, Will of the People, not good. Logic, Supermarket. This was the first Logic. Actually, wait, no, that's not true. This is the second Logic album I've listened to, but it's also the second Logic album I've ever listened to. If you guys are sniffing what I'm scratching here, I don't listen to Logic. I found it to be all right. I didn't find it to be super offensively bad. I think there were some good ideas on here. I think the main problem with this album is the lyrics and also the vocals and also just the story. Apparently this is like a companion to a book Logic wrote, and I have no idea what's going on in the story. It's like about some dude who's like way too into a girl, and this girl does not know that he exists, so he like stalks her or something like that. Also, he has a time machine, I guess. I don't know how that plays in. At first I thought the time machine was a metaphor, but by the end of the album I was convinced that this guy actually has a time machine. And it's really weird hearing Logic talk about stalking this girl at a grocery store and man wanting to watch her sleep or something like that. There's some weird ass lyrics, okay? The instrumentals, like, they're like kind of alright, you know? There's like some songs on this thing that I actually grooved with instrumentally. The first 2 tracks are pretty good. The only problem with the first song is that like the last like minute transitions into this like trap beat thing, and like that's also another thing. Oh my god, I forgot about this. Because like this album was kind of like an indie rock, alternative rock, acoustic type project. Something very different than Logic. But Logic, of course, because he's a rapper, he's gotta rap, you know? So sometimes the album transitions into these like trap beats, and like the transitions are always so awkward. It always throws me off so much. Mac DeMarco produces a song on this thing, and I am convinced that Mac DeMarco just took a song that he scrapped off of one of his projects and gave it to Logic. Because it's just a Mac DeMarco song. I got respect for Logic to kind of do something outside of his comfort zone, do something that he's not known for. However, I think some of the ideas just weren't executed very well. It's not good, but it's also not bad. So I guess it's just not, you know? It's just not. I guess we'll talk about Justin Bieber changes. I feel like there's a few albums on this thing that are like, it's obvious that it's not made for someone like Anthony Fantano. It's not made for someone like me. This is one of those albums. I feel like as a R&B pop album, it's not bad. It's just not something that I would find myself listening to on ever, actually. A lot of like airy chords are being played here, like a lot of synths and like smooth guitars and stuff. I think the problem that I had with this album when listening to it is that like every single song just started to blend together. Also, there's that one song on here, Yummy. Okay, that's the only song on the album that's like offensively bad. Like, it's kind of crazy that he released Yummy as the lead single. There's some songs that I actually kind of enjoyed. Let me see if I can find. Oh, wait a second. I just came across a note. A lot of this album is like about like Justin Bieber and like his wife. And there's one line that really kind of threw me off. There's a shout out to your mom and dad for making you. Rolling eyes back in my head make my toes curl. And then I wrote, yeah, I didn't need to know that, dude. Say I'm number 1 on your to-do list. That one's crazy, bro. You know, I'm gonna start using that. Pickup line central here. Oh yeah, see, I wrote like, I can see some radio lovers enjoying this. Like people who are just like the average music listener, you know, they might enjoy this thing. But for someone like me who calls Deceit a 10 out of 10 album, I'm obviously not gonna enjoy this thing. I think this thing's just really uninteresting and boring. It's honestly not bad, but it's also just not made for me. Okay, we'll go into Imagine Dragons Origins. This is an album that I don't remember much from. Apparently I liked the first track though, and I think that's the only thing I enjoyed about this. It's kind of obvious what they're doing with this album, okay? It's obvious that these guys, they just kind of need a paycheck. At least that's how it feels to me. It's like, we need to get these songs on the radio pronto. So a lot of these songs just come across as very cheesy, bland, pop rock songs that are just very boring and uninteresting. It's not memorable at all. Honestly, I can't remember a thing. I wrote a shit ton of notes about it. One thing that stands out to me that I'm looking at right now is, yeah, this song sucks. That's a bullet point. There's the song on this album that is from a Disney movie. I remember it very clearly because it sounds like it belongs in a Disney movie. There's the song Digital. I don't remember, but apparently Digital was cool because I said, what the fuck, where did Digital come from? And I said, is this the same band? Question mark, question mark. And then I said, oh yeah, it is because of the awful vocals. That's the thing too. I also hated the vocals on this album. This album's not good. Lil Xan, Total Anarchy. This album is like offensively bad. This is like a drugged out rap album, you know? That's kind of how I would. I mean, the name is Lil Xan, Total Xanarchy. That tells you everything you need to know about the album. And if you need to know more, then look at the album cover. Some of the beats on this thing, like, they sound like beats I would have made with my friends in middle school when we were up at 3 a.m. and we just found out that we can get GarageBand on our phones and make beats on GarageBand. It's just crazy that some of these beats really made it onto the album. The first note I wrote is, no, this has to be a joke, right? That's the very first thing on my notes. The vocal style is really annoying too. It's like drugged out rap, you know? But it also just feels like he's just trying to act like he's drugged out, you know? It doesn't sound like he's actually tripping out in the studio, you know? If you're gonna act like you're tripping out in the studio, be with the shit, take Xans and record your album. That's fucked up. He's not saying anything interesting on this album. The lyrics are all really bad. I got like halfway through this album and then I started to realize that like he's just saying the same shit over and over again. It felt like this guy woke up and realized he had to record the vocals for every single song on his album in one day. And he's like, oh shit, I have no lyrics written and I have to be in the studio in 30 minutes. And then he wrote down the same 4 lines and was like, we can change some verbiage on this and it'll be fine. I didn't even finish this album, by the way. I saw that Pinely uploaded a video and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna finish this. This is probably the worst album of all time. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Which is crazy because I'm talking about Angelic to the Core in this video. So this album is not good. Post Malone, Stoney. Post Malone, dude. My roommate said something that I think kind of sums up the experience that this album gives you. So my friend Root goes, I feel like Post Malone had like one song that everybody knows, and like it's just kind of crazy that he has albums because like who listens to those albums? My other friend Gerard goes, yeah, like everyone knows Congratulations. And then my friend Root goes, oh, I was talking about the Spider-Man song. I don't even know what Congratulations is. So this album kind of has the same vibe as Justin Bieber Changes, where it's like, obviously this album's not for me. There's albums like Total Xanarchy, which are not for anybody, and then there's albums like Post Malone, Stoney that they're just not for me. I'm not a big fan of Post Malone's like vocal style. I'm just not a fan of his voice, I guess. I feel like a lot of his lyrics are kind of repetitive, you know? Like I feel like if I had to like smoke a cigarette every single time this guy mentions smoking, I would have lung cancer for sure. This is an album where it's like if someone played some of these songs at like a party, I wouldn't be offended, you know? I wouldn't care. But also I'm not focused on it, you know? I'm focused on getting crunk. I've never said crunk before in my life, but it's just like solid background music. Like I listened to this thing yesterday. I don't really remember it, but I do remember by the second half of the album I was doing other shit while listening to this album, and I was like, you know, it's bearable. So it's not bad, but it's just not for me. DJ Khaled, Father of Assad. This was my first DJ Khaled project, and I was very confused throughout the whole thing. I wonder what DJ Khaled had to do with this project. Did he produce it? He's definitely not singing on it, and if he did produce it, why is this guy so famous? It was mixed so poorly. That was like the first thing I noticed, was like the mixes on all these songs were just so flat. It just felt like very amateur. This guy ripped off Miss Jackson. I'm a big fan of sampling, you know. I've been mentioning it. I've been saying this. We've been knowing this. Something that irks me is just taking an entire song and just throwing it in your song and not doing anything different about it. It's just lazy, you know. The whole album just felt like very underwhelming to me, especially because like DJ Khaled's like so famous, right? Like I mean, I don't know. I've seen this guy play guitar. Roll the clip. Fucking gets me every time. And I've seen this guy do other things with music, so that's why I question about what he had to do with this album. I'm so intrigued by this man. Honestly, I don't remember anything off this album, and I listened to it 2 days ago, going over these notes. I guess it wasn't, I didn't find it awful. It's just radio songs, you know. It's really just radio songs. That's really what it is, you know. It's unmemorable. There's nothing interesting about it. It's just radio songs. And also the mixing was awful. So is it not good? Depends on the person, I guess. So, the moment you've all been waiting for. Angelic to the Core by Corey Feldman. I actually just got done listening to this thing before filming this video. People hate this thing. People call it the worst album of all time. When I started this experience, because that's really what it is an experience, a 1 hour, 40-minute long experience, I was scared and I was dreading it and I didn't know what to expect. When that opening skit came on, I was like, man, this is gonna be a ride. Then the first track came on and I actually enjoyed it. The first song is not bad. There's a groovy synth line in there, kind of a catchy chorus, weird vocal style, I will admit. After that song, I think the album just kind of takes a nosedive. First off, I'm gonna say this album's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be, okay? I honestly think, this is my theory, people hate it just because other people hate it. This album has some really good ideas. Yes, they're not executed well, but the ideas are there. The passion is behind the project for sure. It's not good. I mean, it's obviously not good. The mixing is bad. The mixing is really weird. The mixing is like really flat. There's like no bass in like the entire album. The lyrics, we don't need to get into the lyrics. And then the vocals, I don't know what the fuck is going on with the vocals. Honestly, Corey Feldman's doing like these weird like Michael Jackson impressions, but the instrumentals themselves, despite the awful mixing, are alright. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you should listen to this thing. You should not listen to this thing. This album is not not good. I wrote a lot of notes in here about how bad this album is, because when you're listening to this thing from front to back, it just keeps getting worse and worse. You know, it's like the musical equivalent to watching a car crash. Or it's also kind of like a 4-year-old child hands you a drawing that they made with crayons, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and you put it on the fridge. That's kind of like this album. But like the passion is there. I can respect this project. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think I'm trying to say that I respect this project. It's definitely way more interesting than anything else that's on this list. This is definitely the most interesting album I've listened to for this video, but interesting does not mean good. Okay, interesting does not mean good. I'm not trying to sit here and to say I like this album. This album was hard to get through. Yeah, I guess that's my review of Angelic to the Core. I do want to listen to this thing again, because I feel like going deeper into it would be an interesting thing to do. There we go. Those are my reviews. Let me know what other Fantano videos you want me to do. You know, this was fun. You know, let's do some Fantano videos.